Welcome back to Uplink, everyone, the only place on the entire internet where you can find out about all the gaming news, and we always tell you exactly when it happens, right as it's happening. I'm Andrew Hamilton, and I'm joined today by my co-host, Royden
Tired.
a.k.a. Tired McGee.
Yeah. Sleepy McGee, that's me.
Yeah, Sleepy McGee. He is, sleepwalked into this Zoom meeting for this official episode of Uplink, so we're going to try to...
That's how I do most meetings, to be
honest.
Yeah,
there you go. Hey man, if you can get through it with your eyes closed, it's good.
Right. We're talking games, folks. We're talking Gamescom. If that's the proper term.
Yeah, we're talking about games.
There's so many cons. I'm just.
There was a ton of announcements. It was lacking this year a little bit in the really big, massive announcements that you'd expect out of some of these larger events, but Jeff Keighley, host of the Game Awards and Summer Game Fest, was back at it again, hosting the Gamescom opening night. He had a lot of cool world premiere stuff. It was a lot of this. Where'd I go? Are we good here?
Yeah.
Okay. My camera just like completely unfocused for a second because my face was like blurred out. I was in witness protection for a moment.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a lot of smaller scale, reveals here. Some of the more interesting ones were, weirdly enough, the 2014 third-person action RPG Lords of the Fallen has been rebooted and reworked into a title simply called The Lords of the Fallen. And this one will do better because of the word "the," I guess. It was a cool trailer. I like the trailer. Didn't show any gameplay though. It was a CGI trailer, so I'm not even sure really what to expect out of this. But
I didn't play the original. You said the original was bad.
It wasn't bad. It was just poorly. It was middling. It was very middling.
Yeah.
And I don't even think I beat it. I think I played it like probably halfway through the game, and I was just like, I don't know that I even want to finish this. It's not really doing much for me.
A lot of these games that we'll talk about, obviously, like Atlas Fall, or not Atlas Fallen, but Lords of the Fallen, Atomic Heart, or not Atomic Heart, Lies of P. I keep wanting to say, Where the Winds Meet, and Forspoken. They all kind of hold a similar like vein.
Yeah, it's all fantasy RPG stuff. Yeah. I think that the gameplay, this is the era of gameplay being the defining factor and not aesthetic. I feel like before you could really define a game by its overall aesthetic and the way that it fit into a particular genre. But now games are more determined to set themselves aside from each other through gameplay. And even whenever it's a little derivative, so like I was saying before the show, Atomic Heart is just steampunk Russian Bioshock. And to a certain extent, that's maybe an unfair comparison, but that's the comparison that's been made before by the developers. They've kind of made that comparison, but it is.
What is it with the steampunk? This is a big theme throughout this entire. That's what I wanted to say.
I don't know, man. There's like these, dips and heights of popularity for steampunk.
Has been something that is just felt like it's been around forever. Like it's had a long, weird staying power.
Ever since I watched
that subculture.
Ever since I watched the Steampunk Makers show, which was like about a bunch of people who like have modeled their entire life around the idea of steampunk.
Oh yeah, weirdos.
It really makes me cringe whenever someone says steampunk something, and I'm just like, yeah, I can't. But there's this kind of new version of steampunk that's become popular, and Liza P kind of has this style to it. It's more like a Victorian era steampunk, not so much like early 1920s, late 1800s style like a lot of the other stuff is.
Yeah,
it's this cool like Victorian era style. Liza P is just such a weird concept. For those of you that don't know and haven't watched the trailer that's currently playing over our faces, allegedly, if the editor, aka me, remembers to put it up or has time, it's Pinocchio, but Bloodborne. A
Is it
concept
Pinocchio?
that
Did I miss that?
it is Pinocchio. That's what the P stands for.
I'm an idiot.
So I'm just like,
I don't know. His name is P. Like,
yeah.
I just missed that in the first trailer that I watched.
You accidentally thought it was based off the critically acclaimed novel Life of Pi, which you would assume P.
Yes, because I've read that, and that is the first thing that I would think of.
That would be the first thing. That's why you thought that the first
I was
boss
more
was
paying attention to his robotic one arm than I was.
Yeah, he doesn't read as puppet, and like the whole like vibe is supposed to be that he's heading towards becoming a human, but I didn't get that at all from the trailer. And what a wild conceptual meeting that must have been for like, they're like, all right, well, hey, look, we've got this really cool like Victorian era world. We just need like a really good character to set this story in. And we want it to be a story that has some staying power. Pinocchio, make it Pinocchio. We should make it Pinocchio.
There's a lot of Pinocchio media going on right now.
What? Yeah. Well, it's
I think it's in the public domain. And so there is just a ton of Pinocchio. Like they remade, like Robert Zemeckis remade another Pinocchio movie just now with Tom Hanks. There's like 1,000 bad animated films that have come out since. Enough. I don't need it. I don't need it. We had the one.
Public domain is both a great thing and an awful thing. Robbie and I were talking about this earlier when the Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey trailer.
Yeah. Getting all the free press, that movie.
Yeah,
that movie
right.
looks terrible.
It's
but people are like, I don't know, it could be
awful, but I'm still probably gonna watch it. But it's funny because like I'm a big proponent of everyone having their chance, their shot at a one-off story. I think that like sagas or ongoing story chains should remain in the copyright holders. And really, if an artist doesn't want their work to get like spoiled or whatever to a certain degree, maybe that should play a role in it up till their death. But after that, it should be fair game. But I'm really hoping someone eventually does like a public domain fighting game, and it's just using all the public, like Peter Pan, Winnie
Cinderella,
the Pooh, all that, just
all those Brothers Grimm's
stories, everything. Just throw it in there, and it would just be so great.
We kind of skipped ahead, but talking about all the steampunk stuff and the souls and Bloodborne of it all, which is just we're always going to make that comparison because those are the most popular types of those games. For lack of a better term,
created the Soulsborne genre. So
best versions of those games. Lies of P, like not so much as opposed to some of the other games that are on this list as well. But it feels like a game that was supposed to come out in 2015.
Yeah, and that's maybe to the detriment of its marketing. I feel like the trailer did not read as like a current gen style game. I don't know. And it may have been the quality I was watching it at. I was watching on one of our garbage work computers, so it doesn't have like the best screen resolution and stuff.
No, and the combat looks interesting.
I like that I look like I'm in prison in here. Sorry, I just noticed that my background looks like it's just like
you have one free call from McLennan County Jail. Let's see. No, Lies of P, I think, got a lot of press because it just is like
Pinocchio. It's because it's Pinocchio. It's just like the Winnie the Pooh thing. Like would this be as interesting to anyone if it weren't Pinocchio? Like if you told me that there was a Pinocchio Soulsborne game, I'm instantly like, what do you mean Pinocchio Soulsborne game?
What do you mean Pinocchio?
If you go, there's a new Pinocchio game coming out, I go, well, that's weird. If you go, there's a new Soulsborne game coming out or a Soulsborne style game coming out, I go, yeah, I mean, I figured, there's about 1 billion of those every year, but you put the two together and it becomes an interesting enough concept that I'm like, okay, well, now you have my attention. Similar vein to that, Where Winds Meet is kind of like a love letter to, I think it's really crazy this has already impacted the industry this much, but it's a love letter to Ghost of Tsushima, basically, but told through like a Chinese hero instead. I'm really interested to see what that looks like because
like Ghost of Tsushima.
Yeah, well, I mean, it'll look like Ghost of Tsushima, but I'm interested to see what they do differently that like, because typically a love letter incorporates all the best parts of, but
It
also tries to improve on.
it seems like just based on the trailer, like you have more special abilities.
Mm-hmm. It looks a little more mystical.
Yeah, whereas like Ghost of Tsushima is particular, like it's not the most grounded thing in the world. Like
but its combat can get very grounded.
Yeah, but it's like it's not giving you special like jumping or flying powers like this one seemed to have, and sprint abilities or anything like that. It seems to have a lot of those flourishes, as well as the kind of the swinging like long sword motion things that you get from the Souls games. I don't even know how to define that. I just know it when I see it.
Like a heavy strike.
Yeah, all of those. Yeah, the heavy strikes from those games. It looks pretty.
Yeah.
It looks, relatively pretty.
Until I see more gameplay, I can't really speak to how it's going to go. But I do think it's really kind of a credit to Sucker Punch Games, who did Ghost of Tsushima, that their new IP has impacted the industry so much that people are now already writing love letters to it. It was
a brilliant game, but people have been asking freaking, like, even the fans have been begging like Ubisoft to make something set in.
And it's weird that people think that the Japanese samurai aesthetic is like played out or something. I feel like Viking and knight armor stuff is like completely played out. I don't feel like we've had nearly enough Japanese style. Like, give me more samurai games, no problem.
Dude, I don't know what steampunk is. If
give me steampunk samurais.
If the medieval Asian aesthetic is like worn out, like I don't know what are we talking about?
Steampunk is definitely overstayed its welcome, probably, but
okay. So can we talk about this? When you made the rundown, I thought I had watched one of these trailers. I thought I had watched the Forspoken trailer, which looks good. We can talk about that in a second. But I actually watched the Atlas Has Fallen trailer before, like the cinematic trailer. Are these not the same game?
No. Atlas Fallen is.
These aren't the same game.
No, it's from Focus Interactive, who did. They've done a lot of stuff. They're not the same game. And the fact that you think that hurts my feelings. No, it's. They didn't really do a good job of really detailing Atlas Fallen. It was a completely CGI trailer. Apparently, there was a hands-off demo that happened for media personnel, but none of that was shown to the public. Focus Interactive is a very hit and miss publisher. I don't like. They've done the LX series. They did Technomancer. They're very like all over the place. Surge was one of theirs, I think, also. They do a lot of Soulsborne style like games. I don't know where this is going to fit in that category, but it looks like it's an interesting concept, but yeah, it's nowhere near the level of what Forspoken's trying to do.
Well, the reason I say it is because Forspoken is a mystical sort of magical. Well, of course, Forspoken's opens in the modern day, and somebody gets transported into
it's
like
what's that realm called in anime? There's a word for it. An isekai.
Oh,
I think is the name.
Probably wrong. What if you were just wrong? You just wrong.
I just insulted a whole bunch of people. I'm gonna credit Alex with telling me that word. So,
but it follows a few characters in like high fantasy desert.
Yeah, well, and I think that's kind of
looks like the same thing almost, but people are gonna get mad at me. But it like
I think Atlas Fallen is more like closer to Dune in its setting,
right?
And because Forspoken's gonna have like a whole bunch of environments. They showed that trailer showed a lot. I thought the 10 minutes of gameplay looked really really awesome for Forspoken. I will never get tired of watching the magic effects from these trailers, and I'm sure it'll be much the same when I get the game in my hands. There's just something about the way that they've
we talked about this? We've talked about this before, right?
Forspoken a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
We talked about it. I think we talked about it when it got delayed.
Right.
It's such a gorgeous looking game, and I'm really excited about the talent that's working on it behind the scenes. You've got some really talented writers from across the industry that are working on the story. I'm the more I see of it, the more I just want to start playing it already. Honestly,
I'm rewatching it now. Mm-hmm. So if I'm not talking, it looks incredible. It looks really cool.
Yeah, it's so good. I do think that it's gonna get some of those weird comparisons that people make where because the game is open world and has collectibles, therefore it is derivative of Assassin's Creed, the only game to ever exist to do those things.
It looks more to me and I'm not a Final Fantasy player, it looks more like the later Final Fantasy games.
It has a Final Fantasy 15 feel to me for sure. I think that it's, you know, they showed part of that trailer shows that you go to the these top of these cliffs or whatever, and you use a special ability that lets you scan the environment. And I guarantee you people will be like, oh, look, it's the tower thing again. But also, dude, Elden Ring didn't click with me because I didn't know where the hell to go. I didn't know what was going on. And as a dad of two and a man with a full-time job and this secondary job of doing Hardwired, dude, I don't have time to be organically discovering everything.
Who has the time?
Dude, let me just hit a tower up and see what's in the area so I can pick and choose the stuff I want to do. Do I think it would be cool to have the ability to turn off the towers or something so you can choose to organically discover? Sure. But realistically, that would take a whole separate set of UI and stuff to it's more work for the developers. I'd rather just have the option always than not have it at all. So
I also love it's all magic.
Yeah, even the parkour and stuff is magic. It's so cool.
It's all magic. I do love the take on, I'm not quite sure how old the protagonist is supposed to be, but not for nothing, we don't get a lot of YA. This looks how a YA novel feels.
Yeah, it definitely it gives me the same vibes as reading some of those young adult adventure novels from when I was in middle school and stuff, and I used to be really into reading fantasy adventure novels and stuff. It definitely does give me that feeling. I think it's the closest thing, aside from the actual Harry Potter game, I think it's the closest thing I can feel capturing the essence of a world like Harry Potter, where it's young adult driven. The character, you don't have to weirdly try to relate to this medieval character. The character is going to have some modern sensibilities,
or a piece of shit.
Everything's so gruff and tough, and I don't care about anyone. I'm gonna kill everyone I ever meet.
This main character is wearing Jordans or something.
Which is great. And I love the silhouette that her movements cut to whenever she's moving through the world to talk about from a cinema kind of standpoint. I really love the way that the motion of the game kind of carries this very unique feeling through. I could talk about Forspoken forever, but there's bigger fish to fry here, honestly.
It just looks great. Go look up if we're not rolling the trailer over
I'm gonna roll the trailer over this.
It looks incredible. Yeah.
I already have it downloaded.
Awesome. This is what I want to talk about though. Do you want to talk about Atomic Heart?
I already said all I had to say about it. It looks good, but Bioshock Russian steampunk. Check it out. It'll be out allegedly in October. Again, gameplay will play at some point in this little montage that's happening right here. If I do in fact remember to edit it that way, which I promise I will, don't forget. But the bigger thing here for sure, I can't believe it's alive. And that's not meant to be a pun, but it kind of is.
Kind of is a pun.
Dead Island 2 is alive, y'all. It's out there. And it's farther along in development than we thought because it's coming next year.
Yeah.
This came out of nowhere.
Really, it surprised a lot of people. I think it was definitely the most viewed trailers, gameplay and otherwise cinematic.
That's the biggest thing is they showed up with gameplay too.
Yeah, on their feed, whatever YouTube channel that was. I'm sure we'll give them credit, but it was by far the most viewed one, and folks, it looks like Dead Island. I'll tell you that much. I don't have much else to say besides
just
of the game, besides the fact that it is actually a thing. You played Dead Island 1, it just missed me somehow. Like it seems like a game that I would have played in college, but I remember wanting to play it and not getting it. Got like okay reviews. It's very popular. When I was looking it up, sold close to like maybe made like 10 million copies or something like that.
Yeah.
And
it kind of revitalized. It was part of that renaissance of zombie
Left
games.
4 Dead, Dead Rising, which is actually a really good game, the first one of those. Which
but like it came out in
2004,
2011.
2011, yeah. So Left 4 Dead 2 had come out already. But yeah, maybe the zombie thing has passed us by. The zombie sort. I mean, Dying Light. I think we're
back in a renaissance of it because.
Do you think Dying Light 2 did like a? Okay, before we get into speaking of Dying Light 2, what is the? I'm sorry, we've trampled all over this, but why is it significant that this is coming out since Dying Light 2 has already come out? Why? Give the history behind it.
Okay, so Dead Island was very successful, kind of revitalized the industry, but they wanted to take it farther, do more with it. And the original publishers just weren't really interested in growing it beyond like the scope. They wanted to immediately push out a sequel, but they were wanting to do more. So a good chunk of the original studio left to form Techland Games, who in 2014 announced Dying Light. Dying Light was Dead Island, but with parkour. It was a much more refined experience, way more specifically detailed zombies, a day-night cycle, all like full crafting. You could dropkick zombies. It was probably one of my favorite open world zombie games out there. Then Dying Light 2 got announced in 2013. And it was set, I think, originally to come out in 2015. That date came and went. Development got halted and moved. They lost their publisher. Then the Deep Silver, or I think it was Deep Silver, got bought out. The company moved to another publisher and then another developer, and it kind of swapped back and forth. It's been all over the place. So Dying Light 2 was in kind of development limbo as well for a while, but that was more due to Techland having feature creep, where they're
kept adding things.
Yeah, creative director just wanted to keep adding stuff. Dying Light 2 came out, did pretty well this year finally, and so it's interesting that Dead Island 2 is even gonna try to compete in that space, because it's evolved a little bit. It's now a much more difficult space to compete in, and I was just saying a few minutes ago, like the zombie genre has had a renaissance. The Last of Us, all the Resident Evil remakes that have been highly successful.
But this is like the cartoon cousin of those games.
Dying Light 2 is the like serious but not serious world version of Dead Island. And Dead Island 2 said, okay, but what if we went goofier? And so that's what I got from the gameplay trailer.
What if we gave them chainsaws and stuff, and you're just like, yeah katanas. Like what if we did that?
I mean, that's pretty much all people want, anyways, out of a good zombie open world game, is more ways to hack and slash your way through zombies and blow up body parts. They've developed a specific dismemberment system, a really interesting kind of combat flow to it. I'm interested to see what happens with it. I am worried about any game that's been in development for 10 years plus. We've talked about it before, that the longer a game's in development, the more risk it has of flopping based strictly on the fact that its content becomes a little dated. It becomes difficult to keep up. You constantly have to rewrite and stuff. I'm curious to see how closely to the release that script for the story and the voice lines and stuff were written, and how well they dodged topical,
Oh, there's going to be a Trump
content.
joke in there.
There's going to be a Trump joke. Dude, there's going to
ew.
be like, don't touch my spaghetti stuff in there. Like it's going to be a whole bunch of dead memes.
Like a
Undead
damn
memes.
Daniel joke or something somehow.
Damn Daniel. It's like, dude, what?
What?
No, there's going to be a side quest called "What Are Those?"
You're right. Ellen dancing memes. What the gameplay looked fine.
Yeah.
Like I'm not.
These kinds of games just don't appeal to me as much anymore.
Yeah, I'm not gonna crap on it. It the first person sort of hack and slash is not my cup of tea.
In co-op, it can be fun, but I just don't. I don't like doing it myself.
So it gets kind of gratuitous actually when you're doing it from a first person. I know that doesn't make any sense because like it's the same sort of grab, but when you're up close and personal with that, also the movements for me in first person games normally don't work as quite as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you're trying to like,
I think Dying Light 2 was one of the first like open world first person games to nail that feeling of movement. Yeah. And it's really difficult to make those moves feel normal without disorienting someone, because on one hand, we know that it doesn't look right for the, like in, I think a good example is like Call of Duty and stuff where, the guns are like this in front of you, which, you're like, oh, that makes sense. But if you look at the character models outside of the player view, it's just a pair of floating arms, like at your torso level, and the head's down there, but the rest of the body is elsewhere. And so it doesn't, like the height has to be right. It doesn't make sense. But it's so that when you move your head independently of your torso and body with the controls, it doesn't horrendously disorient you. But I think Dying Light 2 did a really good job of kind of combating that. So we'll see if Dead Island 2 managed to pick up on any of those details. I don't know what's going to become of this. I won't believe in any game's release date until it's in my hand. You guys know me. Everything's delayed until it's out. Right. So
that feels like they're going to put this out come hell or high water. They're just going to like
at this point,
it's the world.
It's got to be a sunk cost fallacy at this point, where it's like, you've put so much money into it, it has to come out. So we'll see.
Right.
So let's that was Gamescom.
Topical. Yeah, Gamescom. More topical news. We need to talk about PlayStation price increases because that's exactly what they needed to do.
Yeah. So this is a weird one. I haven't really heard much from the Sony PR people as far as like more detailed defense of this action. But PlayStation 5 has increased its price in a large number of markets outside of the US. There haven't been many cases of this kind of thing happening before. It's odd because they're blaming inflation and supply chain issues, but they specifically did not include the US in that market. And we've now started to see an influx in PS5 consoles.
No, I was just going to say, like, our producer friend Tyler was almost able to buy one the other day. While they had a shipment to Walmart,
Yeah, there's been plenty of people finding them just on the shelf now. So I don't think they're going to be able to stand on that for very long. Now, there's a couple things that they could have done to soften the blow if this was an actual like necessity for their company or whatever. For one, they could have included a free game with those that price. That would have helped offset that feeling. They've done that in the past whenever they release a PS4 version or a PS3 version that was $50 more but included a free game and like 3 months of PlayStation Plus or whatever. I think that would have really helped to offset the negative feelings a lot of people are having for this. But man, it's hard to justify and to way to set up your competitor for an easy comeback, because all they got to say, this reminds me of 2013 with Microsoft announcing that you won't be able to share your games on Xbox One, and then PlayStation making a video just dunking on them where they just on PS4 you can still share your games like this, and that's just one dude handing the other dude a copy of his game. He says, "Thank you." Easy dunk, super easy win. This is the same thing because now all Microsoft had to do was say, "No, there's still going to be plenty of Xboxes, and we're not going to raise the price."
In fact, we could probably actually lower the price if we wanted to.
They could lower the price. They're already taking a loss on it. Might as well take a full loss on it. Nintendo has also said that for the time being that they won't be raising the prices on the Nintendo Switch. Because why would they? While that shortage on the chip side is a big factor here, I feel like, and I feel like this decision was maybe even made months ago when they thought the situation was going to be a lot more dire.
The CEO got the memorandum like months ago, and then he found it on his desk when he was cleaning things out. Yeah. He was like, "Oh wait,
well,
I forgot to do this one."
These decisions are sometimes made pretty quickly, but there's a lot of times where there's a lot of fluff that you have to go through before that decision actually gets to make it out to the public. So I would imagine that some of this went through some level of course correcting and stuff, and they felt that it was right. I don't think this is necessarily a case of like Sony being just flat out greedy. If they were going to do that, they would have increased it everywhere. It's more a misread of the situation, I feel like. Now, that being said, they haven't course corrected back the other way. So who knows? And while all that's going on,
I don't pretend to think I know what these major companies do when they make these decisions like this because I'm a dumb person. All I know is that it does hurt the consumer that wants to play. And plus the price of the dollar isn't as strong as it always has been. So it's just I mean, dollar being the colloquial term.
Yeah, the US dollar.
Yeah, it's not as strong as it has been. So it's tough when you're having to,
Well, and it's like a double whammy because like the price of the console goes up, but also the prices of the games went up, and the prices of extra controllers went up, and the price on PlayStation Plus went up. So now instead of it being $700 gets me in with a game and a year of PlayStation Plus.
And guess what? People around the world are still making the same amount of money. It's not like our salaries have increased.
Yeah, but that's not what they're worried about. That's never what these price hikes are about.
No, I know.
I'm just saying, on the other end.
This is just Royden Rant's corner right now. This is my salary has stayed here, whereas the price of things is continuing. How does that work?
How is that fair? I am confusion. And while Phil Spencer was busy dunking on Sony about the price hikes, he also made sure to calm fears about the exclusivity possibility of games like Call of Duty by saying that he believes that as the generation goes on, we're going to be seeing less and less console exclusive games, which is just a fun way of saying Microsoft won't exclusively release it on Xbox, but they will exclusively release it on Xbox and PC to say it's not a console exclusive. They didn't say that, but that's. I was like, I mean, there's a clear loophole there. You can't fool me. I know what's going on.
There has been a recent trend more now, so to allow crossplay on all of these games.
Yeah, crossplay, and even just seeing like Spider-Man and stuff getting released on PC this last month.
I think there is a clear like goal for a lot of studios to like, hey, maybe more people should actually play what we made. Like, because it's art. Art should be enjoyed by people, but also, there is still what we've talked about in like 18 episodes of this show is the race to grab more IP. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what the
IP grabbing has resulted in a lot of dead content over the years, and that's maybe the most frustrating thing about all this.
Stuff just not even getting made because
they're like, we bought this because of all these legacy things, but here's the 3 big ones we care about, so those are the only ones that we're going to make. And we're seeing it right now with the thing we've been dunking on for the last couple episodes, the Warner Bros. Stuff, where Warner Bros. Discovery is just killing things left and right and only keeping the stuff that Middle America cares about. And oh my God, that memo was awful to read.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, so basically
I saw where they were like, we can only release 2 more movies this year.
there was that, but no, they sent out a memo that got sent out by leaked by an employee, basically telling everyone that they were going to seek the attention more of quote unquote Middle America, and that projects that had more diverse casts were no longer going to be the main thing. Which is, corporate speak for, shouldn't there be more white people? Isn't it time a white guy had a chance? Come on, guys.
What about those white folks, man? We haven't given them enough of...
They've never had anything. Let them have a chance, says the 2 white men on the podcast.
Let me tell you something. I'm going to offend Middle America for a second. The reason that films tank or projects tank, ratings or anything like that, is because historically the most selling goes on the coasts.
Yeah.
Like if a movie, if there's a blackout in New York on the release of a movie, there's an episode of Entourage. There's a blackout in LA or New York on the release of a movie. Movie studio executives are losing their minds
out
because it's in this hypothetical situation, because that's where they sell their tickets.
Yeah,
that's where they sell their tickets. They sell their tickets in California, New York.
It's almost like major cities have Texas, more theaters, Chicago, and more people.
And Chicago's technically Middle America, but I'm telling you, you're not. Omaha, Nebraska doesn't matter when it comes to selling movie tickets.
Nebraska's not even a real place.
Some people have said, but I'm just saying that memorandum should be like, no one's going to the movies anymore because they're too woke is just stupid.
Yeah.
No, nobody's going to the movies or buying content anymore.
It's a ridiculous.
Just get it at home.
It's a ridiculous sentiment.
Find out how to track what we're watching at home somehow.
Yeah,
maybe.
But also a lot of the content that didn't do well was poorly received because it was poorly written.
Also because it was bad. Yeah.
Dude, Space Jam: A New Legacy or New Age or whatever that garbage movie didn't do well because it was a bad movie, dude.
Yeah.
It wasn't diversity that killed it. It didn't go woke and go broke. There's not some secret hidden political agenda. People didn't get together and decide to not see a movie because of a difference of opinion. They heard the movie was bad, and that spread from the initial reviews.
We were in a pandemic, and
we were in the middle of a pandemic.
And you released it sight unseen on HBO Max.
Yeah.
That's why it tanked.
It's this
bozos. Those people are idiots.
Anyway, Phil Spencer's probably right about console exclusivity. I don't think that means that we'll see Xbox games released on other consoles, really. But I do think that he's looking for that loophole a little bit.
Although
but
I do want Halo on my PS5. I don't have an Xbox. I kind of want.
I do think that they should be releasing older games, like the Master Chief Collection should definitely be on Halo on PS5 and Nintendo Switch, and then only the new Halos are on Xbox. I think that would make sense.
Why not? Give me my thing. I want my thing.
And that could be more what he's talking about further down the line, but we'll see. He's mostly just doing that to make people feel more easy about Activision Blizzard being absorbed into the monstrosity that is the Microsoft executive account. Speaking of companies owned by one of the big three, Bungie and Destiny 2 are continuing to grow. We got our first look at the Lightfall expansion coming in February.
You were super stoked about this. Let me tell you something. Right now, the 10 people that watch this show and regularly are not going to catch me on that. I don't care.
Dude, oh my God. Destiny 2 has such a weird place in my life.
Y'all too, I can't do it, man. I tried. Y'all tried to get me into it. I was so confused about what was going on. I've been playing
I've been playing since the first Destiny, and I still don't know what's going on. They put out a 5-minute video talking about the lore of the game, and that's the first time I've understood what's happening here. There's a story here.
People are trying to kill me while I'm going to one of these missions on this map. Who were they?
Zombie, apparently. Like, it's a whole thing. But so Destiny 2 plays a weird place in my life because I really enjoy the combat of the game. The gunplay is phenomenal. The story structure is whatever, I don't care. But the missions are fun. The open world is fun, but it repeats a lot. And so there's never enough content there, but they always convince me to come back for a few weeks and spend another $50 or $70 with them to play the new expansion and get the fancy new powers. And this one's got my aesthetic number written down on the back of its freaking notepad. And they went neon synthwave, which is, I don't know if you noticed on this channel, kind of our thing. They got grappling hooks. I love you put a grappling hook in a game. I'm in that game. I love a grappling hook. They just really, they went all, I feel targeted personally. Like they're coming for me. I'm just trying to have a good time. I've got other games to play, Destiny. You think you're important? There's a lot of stuff coming out in February next year. Don't show up trying to entice me with pretty colors. Anyway, I hope it turns out well.
This is your sports game. Like that, I've been like, when you log on and you see, is he still playing Madden? Is I'm like 18.
I actually
like
feel
on my
about
18th
that.
planet.
Yeah, dude, I straight up, I actually feel that way about it. Like, I have friends that play 2K, NBA 2K pretty regularly, and I'll be like, why do you go back to that? They're like, why do you go back to Destiny 2 every time? I'm like, shut up. You don't know. It's different.
It's like, different this time.
They have different cosmetics now.
Yeah, I as much as we talk about microtransactions and in the grind and games,
that game's got my number, buddy. Dude.
It's got you.
It's me.
I don't. It ain't for me. More power. God bless you. It looks great. I played it a little bit. It plays great. I'm so confused. I'm lost. I'm out. Sorry. Yeah.
That's fair.
Call me Odysseus because I'm lost.
That's a solid joke. I think that there's a lot of people out there who probably are in that same boat where it's just not really their thing anymore, or that they feel that there's so much that's happened since the launch of this game in 2017 that it's just not possible anymore to get caught up. But I will say that the game is very new, what they call new light friendly, so that new players have a good onboarding track. So while I don't recommend doing cocaine for the first time, but Destiny 2 can be fun if you're into that kind of game.
It takes up so much space.
It's like 80 gigs.
Oh my God. We talk about Modern Warfare and all that taking up so much space. It takes up half the space on one of your things. Yeah. It's crazy.
Even after they cut a whole bunch of content, it's big.
I did want to talk about this because I didn't know this when you put it on the notes. Moving on from the Destiny thing, Mafia 4 in development.
Yeah, so the next Mafia game is in development to celebrate the 25th anniversary, I believe. No, the 20th anniversary of the original Mafia game. They announced that the next Mafia game is in development finally. I don't really know what they didn't give us any details really. Just said it is in development. I don't know what that means as far as who's doing this particular one, because I had heard that
who owns it now, because 2K had it originally, right?
I think it's still 2K that owns it. Maybe not. Let me see.
I replayed just to vamp a little.
It's still 2K. Okay, and it is Hangar 13. Looks like that's still going to be doing it. I had heard that Hangar 13, who did Mafia 3 and the definitive editions of Mafia 1 and 2, I had heard that they were maybe going under, but
a game that was supposed to be something and then came and went. Really,
Mafia 3 was an okay game.
I know. I'm just saying it was supposed to be
at a time that a lot of other bigger titles were out, and
I think it went up against Last of Us if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, I think it came out around that same time, and there wasn't a chance.
It's
a decent game.
Yeah, I never played the third one. It looked like it was a good game. I did replay the definitive edition of Mafia because the original Mafia was like a PC exclusive, wasn't it? It was a
Uh,
PC game.
I think so.
Think so.
Now I can't remember. I think maybe an HD version get released on console eventually, but I think the original was PC only.
Not for nothing. Those definitive versions, they did an incredible
really
job
good.
of like just rebuilding a game.
Yeah, it's insane how much detail they were able to fit into those games.
It wasn't the best thing that I've ever played, but like it was free on PlayStation before they switched over to all PlayStation Plus. It was free on PlayStation Now once you bought PlayStation Now. But I was streaming it and stuff, and it was a really fun gangster game, you know.
Yeah, which we don't get a lot of traditional gangster games anymore either.
Yeah, and it felt like it kind of felt like how I remember the early well, why am I forgetting? Grand Theft Auto's playing.
Yeah.
Sort of.
But with more of a the vibe from that first game is just so Sopranos / Goodfellas all the way through, and it plays so well in that environment that it feels like the GTA formula was practically devised for that style of gangster story, you know, to like a classic, you know, telling of the gangster story. I'm really excited for them to make another one. Honestly, I thought Mafia 3's combat and world was like incredibly well realized. I really like the dynamics between like the mob boss kind of feeling and then coming back to you know, the 1960s and taking over territory and stuff. So I'm interested to see where they go next. If they'll go back to that classic era, if they're going to try to do a more modern Mafia, kind of, you know, more of a hush hush secret empire kind of Mafia that would run more of a modern day.
Yeah, it wasn't so frontward facing.
Or if they're going to try to go maybe like early 80s, late 80s, kind of, you know, cocaine field Miami Vice Mafia.
Yeah, there's a few ways that you can go with it. I'm interested to see. I wanted to add this, and I know we're running long.
Yeah.
I just got the commercial for the Saints Row game. Have we talked about this?
We have not.
I think we might have talked about it off.
I think we talked about it off camera.
Speaking of franchises that came out in the mid 2000s that kind of came and went, this looks awful.
It has been thoroughly panned.
Saints Row looks terrible. I couldn't believe it.
I played 20 minutes of it.
Oh, already?
And it's not
like as a review?
I didn't even do a review. I couldn't get through it. It's so by the numbers boring after the first like opening area or whatever. And I think they put so much time into character creation and customization that they forgot to make a good game to go with it. So there's just not much there. That would be important,
you would think.
And like it's so much rehashing. And dude, the writing feels like it was written by a bunch of dudes in their 40s trying to decide what a millennial will laugh at. Like it's just not good. And the reviews were all over the place. I thought it was really funny that like Game Informer was the outlier amongst the review community. They gave it like an 8.5, and I was just like, huh?
It also looks buggy too. Like I've seen some
apparently a lot of people have been having problems. The PC version is apparently extremely like non-optimized to the point of like causing significantly major crashes and stuff. So
they have completely jumped the shark with that thing because it was supposed to be, I remember Saints Row was supposed to be, and it never added up to it, but it was always supposed to be the GTA competitor.
Yeah, and they
at least when it started,
they clearly tried to go back to those roots here, but I think that was probably the mistake that they made because 3 and 4 in the Saints Row series really upped the ante to be like in one of those games you're the freaking president. You're just the president of the United States now. Your gang is your cabinet. Mm-hmm. Like that's your like every office in your White House is filled by a gang member, like, and then aliens show up, and also you have superpower. Like they took it to the farthest extreme. You're not even doing street level crimes anymore. You're the president. And I don't know how you come back down from that without looking like you're just trying to do GTA again.
Right.
And that this game heavily suffered from that. They tried to do this more realistic art style that I think didn't lend itself to the wackiness that they had on display. And then they, like I said, they spent so much time putting customization options in, which are great. But a customizable character in a boring world is still a boring game.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, I was disappointed that it turned out as bad as it did because honestly, the original marketing for it kind of had me excited for it. But then they stopped responding to my emails about review codes, and I thought that was very telling. Like a few days before I was supposed to receive a code, they were like complete radio silence on me, and I was like, "Hello,
good."
All right." And then I saw the reviews starting to come out, and I was like, "Oh, they must have caught wind that people weren't having a good time, so they stopped sending codes out."
Incredible. I don't know. I derailed us. I saw the commercial for that game, and I was like, "Oh, I forgot how bad this looks."
Speaking of things terrible that looked bad and were bad, the Netflix Resident Evil series has been canceled.
Incredible,
unsurprisingly, after one season. It got the old Netflix one and done. It's just gone.
Netflix tends to do.
Yeah, in this case, it was justified. The Resident Evil series, if you didn't watch it, don't. It's not very good.
3.9 user score on IMDb.
It is not good, dude. Even the redeeming parts about it. I'll say this: the CGI work on that show, not bad. Overall, some pretty cool, gross looking effects there. But the story, the adherence to the world of Resident Evil, not good enough. And that's I don't like the Resident Evil movies either, but this is somehow a little worse.
Not for me. I don't know how they've continued to. I think because they've been able, sort of like how horror movies work, where we're going to make these things for $3 million somehow. And the return on investment is what, I mean, the first couple
that out of a TV show, really,
No, not on. And Netflix is hemorrhaging money
constantly.
So the return on investment here. Yeah, not a Resident Evil guy, especially not a Resident Evil movie guy.
Yeah,
more props to Mila Jovovich. She's somehow made a career off of all of those movies.
Yeah, well, her husband's the director.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so the first movie, just real quick before we move on, the first movie, $33 million, $102 million worldwide gross. So yeah, it's sort of middling budget, have somehow made these returns on investment.
It's
been less or so because they've even jumped the shark. I don't know how
they've jumped the shark a whole bunch apart.
Yeah,
jumped the zombie shark. But yeah, I mean they've done it several times, and it's insane to me. Dude, if you ever want to look at the brand longevity of a particular thing, look at Resident Evil. Nothing shows more how long lasting the concepts of video games are in people's heads, that the Resident Evil franchise didn't die at some point. The games,
I mean, in the last few that they've come out with, the games have been decent, right? Or have at least gotten decent.
I mean,
reviews.
They've gotten high scores. They've been very well reviewed, and the remakes have been reigniting a passion for the old style of games too. They're about to remake the most popular Resident Evil game, which is Resident Evil 4. And so I'm very interested in seeing how much longer they can get away with making bad every other kind of Resident Evil content while continuing to make good Resident Evil games.
I was gonna say, man, they should have realized that the market wasn't there on Netflix for the. No, I think the show was just bad because
it was just bad.
The last movie cost $40 million to make and made $300 million in 2018.
It's still very popular. And speaking of things that are very popular and happening on Netflix, the Bioshock live action movie that has been in development for a while now finally found both its director and its scriptwriter. And Francis Lawrence is set to direct. He was the director for I Am Legend and The Hunger Games: Catching Fire. So some really big name titles. And the script is being written by Michael Green, who was the lead scriptwriter for Logan, Blade Runner 2049, and American Gods. So that is some high quality talent attached to this, honestly, which makes me a lot more hopeful for.
Right.
And I Francis Lawrence is a name I recognize a little bit as someone who has talked about wanting to get a shot at making something akin to a video game remake.
Well, he's been pretty good at adapting IP, obviously.
And Michael Green's Logan script is an excellent adaptation of the
nominated
old man Logan
for an
story. Yeah, and so they didn't really talk much about it. We don't know anything else that's going on. Maybe we'll be hearing about casting soon.
I'm interested to see, and these are going to be movies, right?
Yeah, so this will be a movie. They have not even said if this will be a direct adaptation of the first game.
Mm-hmm.
I would expect, for the sake of iconography, that the story will still take place in Rapture, the city from the first game. But I would expect that it's either a prequel to the events of the first game leading up to like where things are whenever you arrive, or a story told from the perspective of a Big Daddy and a little sister, similar to the story in Bioshock 2. So,
to be honest, I'd like for them just to make Bioshock Infinite.
Dude, just give me. Well, I know that all these creators and studios are scared to do this. Just give me a straight adaptation. Just give me word for word the best. Like, let new actors say the lines. Put some. You can add some pad in there to make the story more palpable for an audience and cut out some of the nonsense. But when you remove the gameplay from a lot of these games, the story is still really good. It's still like 7 hours long. Yeah. So there's some stuff you're going to need to cut. But I think that there's nothing wrong with doing a far more like direct adaptation than what we've seen out of a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, there's a couple school of thoughts there as we don't want to remake what it's already amounts to. Basically, in Bioshock was one of the first, not the first, but it was one of these games where it's like it was so cinematic, kind of like we're seeing with the Last of Us series, which we got a first look at, by the way. But the
looks good.
Yeah, well, we can talk about that. But the Bioshock games were cinematic in their own right, so it's like, why do we want to remake what is essentially amounts to like a 30-hour movie?
Mm-hmm.
And so, but then you don't make that, and the fans poop and pee themselves. You didn't give me the thing that I liked back in the day. Why? Where is the thing? Where's my drink? Where's my diet Dr. Kelp?
The fans screaming while pooping and peeing themselves as it's well
throwing
known.
Up. Yeah. There's a double-edged sword with these things because it's almost like you can't win.
Oh no, there's no way to win this.
There's no, even if it's great, which it has great talent attached to it. And I would warn people that like this, like many other adaptations, like we've seen, like with the Halo thing years ago.
Temper your expectations.
Not even temper your expectations with the movie. It may be years before this. It's supposed to come out
next year, I think.
Yeah, 2024, I think, maybe. So it's supposed to. But between that time, we've seen these things get pushed and canceled until they start production. Like you see a production slate on IMDb on this. Just be careful, because then
until you're in the theater watching it, it's still delayed.
Yeah, basically like a video game, because they'll I guarantee you, and hopefully not, because I like Francis Lawrence, but they'll the director will walk off of this, or
Eventually.
they'll change. They'll change direction. This will pass through 3 or 4 more hands before it.
Oh, and this isn't even the first time we've done this, because Bioshock has been a property in development as a movie or a TV show since 2009.
Yeah,
it's.
And I wanted to say, just the other school of thought is, oh well, there enough time has passed with Bioshock, unlike Last of Us, where enough time has passed that, hey, maybe we can just redo the story.
Oh yeah,
maybe we can just take that story.
Like if it's for introducing a
whole
new
audience and generation of people that, and granted, they've released all the Bioshocks remade and remastered,
right?
The Bioshock collection, which I'm still working my way through, but there's a whole new audience out there that has come of age that will be able to watch this. So like, just redo the story.
Yeah, we're heading into the Last of Us Part 1 remake this weekend. Me and Christian are going to be doing some live streams, and then we're going to be doing a co-op review on that one. And I'm kind of in the same school of thought there that, like I've seen a lot of people saying like, oh, if you played this game before, why would you pay $70 for this? Unless you're a super fan, you don't have to, dude. But like, it's not for you. This is a chance for an entirely new audience to get the full feeling at the highest quality that they can from the game. The story hasn't changed, the voice lines haven't changed, but the gameplay has been improved. The visuals have been improved. They've been completely redone, and I think that's. You could apply that same logic to a lot of these movie adaptations, that just because a game can still be accessed doesn't mean it's still in the public consciousness. So maybe just go for a full-on remake of that story instead of trying to adapt some weird offshoot version where you've cobbled together the most iconic parts of
the names of, like,
where you're
kind of how the Uncharted
exactly
Uncharted movie felt, where it's like, okay, what time are we in? But it's not in the game; it's before the games. But he's still falling out of a plane.
It's definitely parts from 3, 2, and 4, and also 1, and also it's all before all of that. And like, it's all this crazy. It's dumb. All right, we got time for one last thing.
Just real quick. Last of Us first look came out with Pedro Pascal. Looks great. People were pooping their pants online about the casting of Ellie. How about we give her a chance?
Yeah, get over yourself.
How about that? Let's do that.
Ashley Johnson is in her late 20s, early 30s.
She's in her 30s. Yeah,
so maybe not have her play a 14-year-old. Right. Again. So, I think it looks great. Pedro Pascal is awesome. I'm excited to see how this girl does. The little glimpse we got looks incredible. The set. Nick Offerman looks awesome as Bill. I'm so excited for that.
What a casting.
I really love the cast here. I think that there's some cool decisions that have been made. I'm really excited to see what they do with the story. But I want to talk to you a little bit, because another year, another Madden. The reviews were in the very, very weak range. Most reviews were pretty negative on this one. Right. Fan reviews were pretty negative. Critic reviews were extremely negative. I only saw maybe a couple positive reviews, and they were still like middling. What has been your experience after all we talked about with Madden, saying that they've polished up it's the most polished Madden ever? We've changed the game. It's a different game now. Is it a different game? Is it more polished? Is it good?
Look, it is, from what I understand, a better game than what they have put out recently. That maybe that's not saying much to a lot of fans or anything like that. But apparently the last 2 Maddens, which I admittedly didn't really play, and maybe due to the pandemic, they weren't finished when they put them out, which is tough to say because it's like you're putting this game out every single year, But apparently the past 2 games were bad. People called 2020 like the worst game that's ever Madden that's ever been put out. Or 21, I can't remember. It doesn't matter. But look, I haven't played a Madden in a couple of years. Like I said, I'm enjoying my time playing it. There's a few things. Always Madden, since they've started with these new engines and experimenting with whatever engine, any engine past, I think, Madden 2000 and whenever they started experimenting with the Frostbite stuff. So like
2014.
Yeah, 2013, 2014. It is buggy, man. And I haven't quite experienced all of that, but it just a lot of people online, and rightfully so, it's clipping. It will just glitch out and stop working. Like the frames will just disappear for people. The tackling is a little weird. Like you still when you run like when you're running and you run over and hit a guy, they still kind of just like fall down, you know what I mean?
Help, I fall and I can't get up.
They kind of just fall to the ground, and it that still happens. A lot of people are complaining about the passing mechanic. To that I say, I'm not that worried about it. They gave you the opportunity to switch it to the classic one button tapping.
Yeah, like
button tapping.
Like in an MLB where they changed it up the way the pitching and hitting was working.
In this game, it's like more directional throwing, and it wants you to use the left stick to control if the pass goes long or far, or what direction the pass goes in. I kind of find myself still like zipping passes in there and getting picked off. So that's a little bit frustrating, but I do have the option to change it. So people complaining about that, grow up, just like learn your settings. I think just go into your settings and figure it out. You pay the money, you can figure it out.
Why isn't it default set how I would like it?
Yeah, it gives you the option when you first start the game. It gives you the option. You can go through and you play like cutscenes of how this would work. Regardless, franchise mode is still there's a lot going on, but it still sometimes feels hollow,
like disingenuous to the
disingenuous to what it used to be. Like there's a lot more to do, but it isn't as focused. You know what I mean? And it doesn't flow like it should. I don't know how to ever really evaluate the franchise modes on some of these, because there is a lot to do. You can feel like I've been playing as the owner of a franchise now, and you can set the market prices on concessions and things like that. And you're just like,
so it's that weird thing that like, and FIFA did the same thing, and to a certain degree NBA 2K has done like a lot of the same thing. I think they've honed in on the wrong aspects of what people care about on the sports. Like when I think of like my career mode, I'm not thinking about like lining up sponsors and signing like deals with State Farm and stuff. Like I'm thinking about like people evaluating my skill to determine if I'm going to be worth putting on their team and stuff. And like, you know, where you do certain conversation pieces to make yourself a more valuable target for, you know, bigger and better teams and so on. But there's this like weird, almost capitalistically focused approach to all the sports games now, where it's like, you know, FIFA, when you're running your club, you've got like all these options for players that you can trade, and you're treating them like pawns and little pieces that are just money that you can swap in and out interchangeably. But then there's like also like sponsorship deals and stuff that are in there, and it's so weird and kind of grubby. And I think it like you said, it comes off disingenuous to what players are probably looking for in that experience. Which
I think what players are, and you do have the option,
evolution of your playing ability.
Yeah, you do have the option to also do an online franchise, which a few of my friends are doing, which seems like a lot of fun, actually, because you can trade players amongst your friends and things.
Oh yeah.
So that's interesting, because you used to be able to do that in NCAA. You could do an online dynasty and
such a weird concept.
Yeah. But the what I think, and I'm not, I don't have my thumb on this, but what I want out of a franchise mode, and we're going long, but what I want out of a franchise mode is player customization, player control, a good sim within the franchise, and like stadium relocation, uniform design, and stadium design. Yeah. And that's really about it. Like, I don't care about like the price of like a hamburger. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A hamburger and French fries doesn't like it doesn't do anything for me to, and it shouldn't affect my franchise.
Like, I'm not trying to roller coaster tycoon.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's exactly what they're kind of doing here, and it just gets way too. They're going in depth in the wrong direction. Admittedly, I hadn't played the card mode for that game because screw that. I'm not going to do it. Don't care. Not going to do it. It seems like it wants to give you a lot more opportunity to earn better cards, even more so than like FIFA does. They have a face of the franchise mode, which is essentially their character career mode. It's super lacking. It's pretty straightforward, but it's weird. You don't get to start like out of college. Like, you aren't drafted. You start as like a 25-year-old. So the immersion of it doesn't even feel cool. Yeah. You're just like, oh, I've been bouncing, or like I'm a journeyman, and all of a sudden I wind up on this team. How? Doesn't matter. You still like play, but it doesn't give you, a lot of options other than this is your schedule for the week, and they can go play the football game. So
if we had to throw a score on it, how many John Maddens would you throw on it?
I'd throw, I don't know. He was a bigger guy, rest in peace, but I'd throw 6.5 John Maddens out of 10.
6.5 John Maddens.
Yeah. Rest in peace.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not.
It's not the worst football game that I've ever played. Let me tell you, it's not the worst Madden that I've ever played either. But it's nowhere near the best, and they got a lot to fix before.
And they should have come out of the gate and started saying that this was their most polished version or whatever. Don't shoot yourself in the foot like that next time, guys. Just
I'll say this: it looks great. Yeah. Like the player designs and like the way that players look on the sideline and the coaches look on the sideline and everything else, it looks great. Just the movements and everything.
Yeah. They've really gotten away from the dead eye feeling a lot.
Yeah, some weird uncanny valley stuff going on with the actual movements of players and things like that.
All right. Well, that's our extremely long makeup episode for not doing an episode last week. But we've got a lot of cool stuff coming up later this week. I'll have a Roller Drome review for you guys. Probably my favorite game of the year so far. On Saturday, we will have, so tomorrow after this airs, Christian and I are going to be doing a 2-hour-long special live stream of The Last of Us Part 1, where we'll be going through the opening couple of hours. Super excited for that. Like I said before, we're going to have a review, co-op review coming out for that sometime in the following week. We'll probably be a little slower getting content out to you guys. We'll still have Uplink every Friday. Weekend Warrior will end after this live stream this weekend, so that's our season finale. So be sure to join us live if you can. If not, you catch it the full back catalog live stream on YouTube. So make sure you guys subscribe and turn on notifications for that. And then you can just keep an eye out. We've got a new show that will launch sometime in the near future called Hardwired Redux. Where I'm going to start walking Robbie through some of the games that he's missed over the last decade's worth of stuff he didn't play. Starting first with 2018's God of War, leading up to the release of God of War Ragnarok.
I need to get in on this because half of this show is just me being like, I missed that.
We'll get you on the next set. I think that's a good idea. We got a lot of stuff going on here at the station, so be sure to stay tuned to KWT Extra for the upcoming Weather Extra show, Degrees of Science. You can also keep an eye out starting next Monday for the 4 p.m. newscast that'll start. I don't call it newscast. KWTX at 4. It's a new lifestyle talk show that will be happening with Justin Early, Lauren Westbrook, Megan Boyd, and Camille and Jillian. very excited to see what all they've got prepared, and I'll be directing that show on the days that I work. So wish us luck on the new endeavor. In the meantime, subscribe, like this video if you guys liked it, leave a comment with any subjects that we might have missed. Always happy to discuss. We'll catch you guys next time.